host, Christene Marie. Y'all, I love this conversation for tonight. In one sense, it's so simple. How much should contractors spend on marketing? And we could just say a certain percentage and leave. But I want to offer real value to help you in making this decision. Y'all, this conversation is important because how much you all spend on marketing could very well be the thing that scales your business, grows your business, or helps your business die on the vine. And spend in and of itself is not a strategy. However, it is absolutely critical to the bottom line based on your actual vision for the business. And the reason why I say this is because it really depends on where do you want to go? What are you actually trying to build? And getting clear on your vision is absolutely necessary for us to even have this conversation. Because if you're trying to exit the business 3 years from now, you're actually going to want to spend very differently than you would if you're actually trying to scale the business. You know, when we think of the bottom line and the numbers that a private equity firm is looking at, those in some ways they're pretty consistent with actually the numbers that you just need to be tracking regardless. But there's more opportunity to take from the bottom line to reinvest in the business if you are looking to scale it versus money that you probably want to preserve and hold on to at the end of the year if you're looking to sell the business. And another point here too, and actually we had a conversation the other day with a gentleman, Bennett Lebowitz, who's the president of Pando Consulting, and this is what he does. So I love that conversation with him where we were talking about how to prepare companies for exit. And in this conversation, we were talking about the financials that are necessary for you to sell are just good numbers for you to look at regardless. But the type of money that you could take at the end of the year and put back into the business needs to be put back in a different way, kind of like in a different bucket, so to say, so that when private equity comes, you can say, hey, look, this was our net. We did reinvest it in these different ways to save on taxes. Other CPAs will encourage you to just let that money sit, to pay taxes on it, because we want to show, look at how much net we had at the end of the year versus just top line gross. And there's a big difference. There are very penny poor, multi-millionaire companies that are, you know, very much so producing, it's a high net worth gross company, but it's a gross profitable business, but their net is very poor. And so, you know, when we're thinking about the direction of the business and where we want to go, we need to be thinking in our budget accordingly based on our vision. And, you know, if you want to sell in 15 years as opposed to 3 years, all right, well, let's actually reinvest for these next 5 to 10 years to really build the brand, to build the business for the sake of it becoming an exitable business. And y'all, I would even encourage you to talk to companies that have already done this, or to consultants, honestly, like Bennett. He's not paying me to say this, but like Bennett, who advises companies, don't wait until you're ready to sell. At the very beginning or as soon as possible, if you're considering selling, get your business ready now. It's so much easier to continue to grow on top of a solid foundation than trying to fix the foundation when people come calling and courting you for business. They're going to take those cracks in the foundation as excuses to lowball you. So stave off any risk at the outset and go ahead and fix that faulty foundation right at the beginning. So to that point, how we want to spend specifically on marketing, again, it depends on your vision. And another thing it depends on is talking about the next 3 to 5 years. Just what are your goals as a business? So yes, are you trying to sell, scale, or have a succession plan? But now let's look more granularly. What are your goals for the next 3 to 5 years? Because if you're going to be going into a new market, you actually should reserve a much higher percentage budget or marketing budget to revenue. And y'all, this is what I've seen, and I've worked for these companies, serving as fractional chief marketing officer, doing their Google ads, where it's anywhere between 6 to 10% of the percentage of the total gross in terms of revenue goes to marketing. I've also worked with businesses that it's maybe 1%. But you can see the slow pace of their growth as a result of the low spend that they're giving to marketing. Marketing is really, really important. Now, the question of why you would give more budget to marketing is, again, kind of going back to, okay, well, what's your vision for, selling, scaling, or succeeding? But what's also your vision for 3 to 5 years? Because here's the thing. If I was to, and this is a real life case scenario, be the CMO of a business that has 8 different territories and they're looking to open businesses in 2 or 3 other territories in 2026 and 2027, well, I actually am going to reserve some of the budget that I would spend. I would take the whole sum of what I can spend, divvy out by percentage. So let's say we've got 100% of the pie, and I get to spend 8% of the marketing budget throughout all of these 8 territories plus the new ones. Y'all, this is literally, as I said, this really happened. Y'all actually taking a small percentage of the 100% and putting it in the best territory. Now, you need to have proven data to do this, but being able to know with verified evidence that, hey, we've been able to spend this much year over year, and we can forecast a certain amount of growth. We grow 5 to 10% in this market every year. Now, it is actually better to maybe scale back a little bit, and maybe we're going to grow 7% in this market, maybe 5%. But because we're adding in a brand new market, we need to take the extra percentage of ad spend and marketing spend here and allocate it over there, so that over there, out of the 100% piece of the pie, that gets 20%, 30%. Y'all, I was being a CMO for one particular business, and they were like, man, why in the world are we not able to compete in this new market? Well, it's because their competitors were spending 20% of their total annual budget on marketing in that region. The company that I was CMO for was spending 8%. We could not compete. Fundamentally, we could not compete. A lot of that was wasted dollars. It is actually better for the sales estimators to go and beat the streets, do door signs, go meet people, set up referral systems, because us paying for 3 billboards where they can pay for 50, it is not even worth it. And so knowing how to spend those dollars, those precious dollars, is so important, in addition to considering, okay, well, where does this marketing dollars go? Where should it go? How should it be allocated? But how should it actually be distributed in terms of physically, where should it be allocated in terms of percentage? But in terms of the actual tactics, where should you all be spending your time? And it's important to pay attention to what the competitors are doing. One of the best things I ever did was fly to one of our new territories, and I just drove around and I just paid attention. Where's our competitor? What street corners are they on? What's their messaging? And I went into gas stations and I asked people what TV stations they listen to. I did like the boots on the ground, real market research. And then we found the local TV station that we had pricing for. Frankly, it was muddied with all these other TV stations that were offered. But here's the thing. That's what the majority of our demographics said that they watched. So, okay, let's go. Now I feel good being the CMO to afford and award hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in these particular areas because I've been there. I've felt the community, been with the community, talked to the community. I literally went in a diner, had breakfast, chatted with the owner, chatted with the regulars. Y'all, do the hard market research. If you're going into a territory, get to know the territory. It is. I think that there's an arrogance that we can go into a territory, not know it at all, and blow it out of the water and earn all the customers. People can smell that. They want authentic connection. They want authentic connection with you. And so for us to be able to connect, we have to know who we're connecting with in the first place. So for us to be able to make the correct call on what our spend should be in a particular territory, zoom out, look at the whole, overestimate on your new territories, needing more dollars there. Take a look at your data, as much as data as you can. Y'all, this is the importance of data. Ideally forecast out based on what have we spent in the past, what has been our year over year growth. Because here's the thing, you could spend the same amount in the same territory for 6 years and grow your leads because they are just more familiar with you. You don't necessarily have to spend more per se. In fact, you could probably start spending a little bit less as the years go by. But pay attention to where your audience is, hang out there, and overemphasize on new targets and new territories. But first and foremost, get to know the territories to begin with. Go hang out with them. Where are they spending their time? What are they consuming? Where are they hanging out? And in so doing, we actually get to be able to serve way better because we come to know who these people are. We come to know the families, we come to know the high schools. And so this question of how should contractors spend their marketing dollars, it must be data-driven and it must be people-oriented in execution. So data-driven in terms of forecasting, estimating the budget, people-driven in the execution and distribution of it. Thank you all so much for joining. I will be on again tomorrow, and we will dive into another topic to serve the trades.